Great. Thanks, Elaine. I appreciate the opportunity to get on here. I appreciate you guys hosting this. And we'll launch right in, like Elaine said, with a little bit about who ICT is, what we do, what we have, where it fits, and with some focus on the new products that we've released recently and the email campaign around our new power module. So with that, we're off to the races, and I hope these slides will follow me as I go. So a little bit about ICT, Innovative Circuit Technology. We are the industry-leading DC power conversion company, and we focus on all sorts of markets, and I'll have a slide about that in a moment. But we're in the wireless internet service provider business. We're in the LMR business. Our products range in all kinds of verticals. Anywhere where there's a requirement for DC power that's more than just plug it into the wall, hope everything works, that's where we fit. And that's where our products are used for reliable and effective and financially beneficial products to ensure that networks stay up and they are constantly working, and we are not, and power is not a source of issues at site. So we are the primary power vendor to all kinds of industry-leading OEMs and channel partners. We're based in Canada. We're a fully integrated company here. We do all of our own design and manufacturing and testing and support and sales, all right here just across the border in Vancouver, British Columbia. Like I mentioned, our focus is in helping customers overcome their power challenges by providing high quality devices and units and systems that provide the lowest total cost of ownership. So we really focus on ensuring that once you've bought a product, it is up and running, and we'll talk about this a bit, but not having to roll trucks and head out to site and deal with power issues and lightning strikes and all these things that can affect communication systems. We are the reliable DC power component all across the world. So, like I mentioned, our mission is to provide intelligent, connected, and highly reliable power devices, meeting the world's needs, and we all know how that's expanding at a monumental rate for voice, wireless, data, internet, and so on. So as I mentioned, some of our wireless customers and some of the markets that we work in, two-way LMR, that's where ICT started back in the mid to late 80s. But we've definitely branched out and broadened out our portfolio in the markets that we serve with the fixed wireless broadband networks, with mobile WANs, and as technology advances and increases and communication systems become more powerful and stronger and faster, we're keeping right up along with those to ensure that our power systems meet the needs for all of our various customers and new potential customers. So to that end, here's just a quick snapshot of complementary product lines. All these companies create devices that I'm sure you're familiar with, some or more or all of them, in networks, and they all require power. They all have an on switch, and they're all critical. No one wants their power to flicker and flutter and brown out and black out and gray out and cause customers to be calling in, services down, they've lost their internet or their network or whatever it might be. So we are, like I mentioned, the power providers to all these folks to ensure that the Cambiums or the Torontas or the Saragons of the world, their radio systems that are transmitting signals, globally, are strong, are powerful, and are always on. Now, we are known as the Intelligent Power Company. If you've just got a passing familiarity with ICT, you might just know us as the Intelligent Power folks or the Intelligent Power Distribution folks. And that's great as an introduction. But yeah, we are definitely focused on intelligent power systems and the benefits that brings. The ability to remotely monitor and control the power systems from the comfort of your home or office without having to go to site, to take readings, to check systems, to cycle power, to flip breakers or replace fuses or whatever that might be. The ability to do that remotely from any iPhone or laptop or tablet or whatever it might be will save customers money and time and pain and agony in the end. So we're looking at decreasing maintenance costs and operating expenses by avoiding those unnecessary site visits, not having to be baffled when something goes down with your site, when customer complaints start rolling in, when your service is down and you had no idea. We provide you with that awareness as to exactly what's going on at a site at all times, not only with our power systems, but with every device powered by it and connected to it. So we're increasing your network performance with a higher quality of service. We're maintaining that network visibility, controlling these systems offsite with a simple click of a mouse or a push of a button, with a very simple and easy to understand graphical user interface. All a customer requires is the IP address of the power system that they purchased, and they're able to get into the GUI and manage and control the entire system and every device that's connected to it. There's no software to be uploaded. There's no exe files that require updates, where you have to take your system offline, do your updates like a Microsoft, and then turn it all back on. It's all proprietary. It's all very simple to use. It's web-based, and it's very customer-friendly. You're able to receive alarm statuses with everything that's going on with the power system and every device connected to it. And as I mentioned, sometimes, the largest problems can be simplified easily by just cycling the power or changing the state of a device or a connected load to it. And we can do that, like I mentioned, all remotely. We can disconnect non-critical devices when you're operating in backup battery mode. So for example, if the main AC power goes out and you're on your backup batteries, which our systems will automatically charge and switch over to, you are able to prioritize the devices that are connected to it. So as that battery is running down and down and down over time, and the power outage remains, you're able to identify your primary or critical loads, your secondary loads, the peripherals, whatever it might be, and have those drop off and program them to drop off at a certain voltage level so you can maintain your critical devices at all times. And we easily integrate into other third-party system management software programs using SNMP or HTML or whatever it might be. We can simply be another tab in the software management or the system management software that someone's got that's looking after their entire site, and power can be one component of that. And we very easily and simply can be a part of that entire system. So why us? We are the reliable power creators, and that is, as we all know, critical to keeping networks operational. We can convert the power from electrical utilities or generators or battery banks, lithium, lead acid, gel, whatever it might be, and keep that system up and running and being effective to run your backhauls and your access points and your routers, your switches, your radios, whatever it might be. And we're using that intelligent monitoring and power control, allowing users to simply log in, like I mentioned, to it from any phone or laptop or tablet or whatever it might be, monitor the power conditions, change settings, cycle power, whatever it might have to be to keep your system up and running without having to send a couple of folks in trucks at time and a half overtime out into the bush or into a helicopter up into who knows where to go and fix your systems. We can do it all, like I mentioned, with a simple click of a button. So what differentiates ICT from some of our competitors out there in the world? We've got an average lead time for pretty much all of our products of anywhere between 2 to 3 weeks. Now, as we all know, we experienced global part shortages during COVID. All of us were seeing 6-month, 9-month, 12-month lead times. We've completely recovered from that. We're back down to, in some cases, we've got a lot of finished goods inventory here that can ship out next day. A pile of our product families have a 1-week lead time. Our manufacturing is capable now of, on average, having anything out the door within 2 to 3 weeks on average. And we've maintained a 99% on-time delivery rate, which in these times and in these days with shipping issues and parts increases, shortages and so on, that's pretty impressive. And we're pretty happy that we were able to get through all of that and continue to get through that at a very decent on-time percentage. Our average failure rate for the entire life of the company, which is 36 years now, has only been 0.35%. And in the last few years, our failure rate is down to only 0.2%. So 99.8% of the products that leave our factory never have issues. They are very much fire and forget. Everything works just fantastic. And you don't have to give them a second thought. only 0.2% of failures do we ever see coming back to the shop. And a good half of those at least are environmental issues, lightning strikes and blowouts. And in places where we sell to, like in Puerto Rico or Australia, for example, sometimes they're infested by dust and snakes or bugs or whatever it might be. But the quality of the products here are second to none. Installation is super simple. On average, from the time you're ripping the tape off of a box to getting it installed at your site, up your tower, wherever it might be, is probably less than 30 minutes. Getting everything configured, that's a fully intelligent and web-based monitored and controlled power system. It's very simple to use. There's no complex programming that needs to be done. There's no complex wiring or bolt-on after the fact SKUs and pieces that need to be included for intelligence. It's all built right into the system. So it's very simple to use, it's very simple to install, and it's very simple to maintain. Our tech support and customer service group, and we've heard this for years, but especially through COVID and now, is really, I think, second to none. The timeliness that our folks can get back to customers to help deal with whatever installation or application issues they might have. The support and the knowledge levels of our engineers downstairs who are involved in not only the design of the products, but the support and maintenance of them as well is globally renowned. And features in our products, like being fully scalable, to grow as your needs grow, as you add more devices, as you require more power, as you have more equipment at site. We don't have to rip and replace our equipment to get something that's higher powered or has more connections or whatever. We can grow our systems along with you to ensure that you're meeting the needs and having everything you need at site without having to rip and replace. Our products are not sources of vulnerabilities. We're all concerned and worried about hackers and things that are going on with electrical grids and whatnot. We are not a point of contention. We have enhanced security and connectivity protocols on all our intelligent gear, be it SNMP version 3 or the TLS 1.2 or whatever we're at. We always keep our security and our connectivity protocols up to the latest standards to ensure that, like I said, we're not a point of vulnerability to any systems. We utilize something called a network watchdog, which ensures your Ethernet connectivity even during power outages. So if you've got a system, be it power or any other, that when the power goes out, you lose your connection and therefore you don't know what's going on at site. You're not getting alarms, you're not able to data log and so on. That doesn't do you any good. So we use this capability in a lot of our products to ensure that that Ethernet connection is maintained and you always know exactly what's going on at site through our DUI, be you on main AC power or backup generators or whatever it might be. I'd mentioned this before about the load shedding to ensure that your critical systems remain operational even during outages, so customers can prioritize the devices that are connected to it. And as batteries drain, I mentioned this earlier, you're able to drop off certain devices that might be peripheral and not critical or not immediate, and keep that system up and running for as long as that battery is going to be there for you. And speaking of batteries, we can charge them up and have them automatically switch over in less than a single cycle in case of power outages. And we can provide you with all kinds of advanced battery metrics. Not only will you be able to see the voltage and current going to and from your batteries and from our systems, but you'll be able to see things like state of charge or runtime remaining. You can even do remote battery testing with our gear. So if you've got a site way up on a mountaintop somewhere in the middle of winter, you don't have to put two guys in parkas and skidoos or snowmobiles, depending if you're in America, up the hill to go figure out what's going on with your batteries. You can just stay nice and warm and toasty in your office and run a remote battery test and get diagnostics and see how your system is doing. With that, we've got an integrated LVD or low voltage disconnect to ensure that when batteries are draining down, we're not having the devices and the connected loads trying to pull power that isn't available from a battery. You can set these levels at what point will the batteries disconnect, and as they charge back up, what point will they reconnect to ensure that you're not blowing up units and trying to find power where there isn't available. And earlier I'd mentioned alarm reporting and data logging. We've got all that built in. So we maintain 30 days worth of data logs in our systems. At any point, it's a simple download, and you can get a record of every alarm and every status change that's gone on with your system. And that orange highlighted line there, that is what really differentiates ICT from every other power company effectively in the world right now, is that ability to individually monitor and control each connected device to our system. So if you have 17 radios, 3 repeaters, 2 backhauls, a router and a switch, you're able to independently get statuses of each of those, independently be able to have settings for them, be it disconnects or charge currents or whatever it might be, and get alarms specifically for each individual load. And if something does go wrong with one of those, which is bound to happen at some point, you're able to cycle the power to just that one individually. As we all know, if you turn something off, you turn it back on 90% of the time, that's going to rectify a problem. From the most simplest device to the most complicated, we can do that without affecting the other 27 or whatever it might be devices connected to our system. So we're not having to take systems offline and have customer complaints and downtime and lack of service and so on. We're able to do that right down to that granular individual level for each connected device. So in terms of what ICT has to offer, we have effectively 4 main product families. Obviously, we've got accessories and other bits and pieces that go along with it. But we've got some power supplies and power systems. So taking AC voltage, converting it to DC to run all your gear. And we've got a few different types of those that I'll delve into a little bit here in a moment. We've got distribution panels to take a voltage source and spread that power out to however many devices or loads it is that you have on site. We can do that. And again, all of these are remotely monitored and controlled. So you have exact knowledge of what's going on at site, and you can configure these exactly the way you want them. We've got some inverters to take that DC power, convert it back to AC to run some AC powered devices you might have at site as well. And again, have that all monitored and controlled by our system. Converters for stepping up or stepping down your voltages from one to another. Maybe you're primarily a 48 volt site, but you've got some 12 volt gear or some 24 volt gear, whatever it might be. We've got the devices here to be able to allow you to run all that equipment, whatever voltage and power requirements it might be. So we've got the full spectrum of everything that you might need on the power side. Now, where ICT started back in the 80s was with some classic product families like desktop power supplies, some DC UPS systems with built-in sealed lead acid batteries. We've got a chassis mount series here, which is a power supply that can be mounted on a tower or in a small enclosure. It doesn't have to be rack mounted and so on. But as we've grown, we've really focused on the WISP world and the fixed wireless broadband world, and our intelligent products show that. So here is probably our 3 most popular product families to date. And you can really look at this sort of as a good, better, best scenario based on what features and requirements are required at your site. The top one here, our modular power series, it can be either 1U or 2U systems. We can use either 700 or 1500 watt power modules to get you up to the power levels and requirements that you might have, all the way up to 12 kilowatts. Integrated into these chassis are load distribution pieces, are battery connections that provide you with those metrics, intelligent control modules, and most importantly here, hot swappable power modules, so that if one does happen to fail, you can go to site and quickly pull out the old one, slap in the new one without taking your system offline. It's power sharing, so it ensures that your system is always up and running. The Platinum series, again, is a very stable and high power supply. It is not a hot swappable device, but it does have a front panel connection. It does have all that Ethernet connectivity, and it comes in a couple of flavors between 8 and 1600 watts. And one level down there, if you don't require the remote monitoring and power capabilities, if perhaps you're at site or it's in an office or it's not a remote location, you can look at a lower cost model that will still charge your batteries and provide you with either 700 or 1200 watts worth of power but you don't need that connectivity and Ethernet capabilities. So we've got various flavors and various products that will fit your specific needs for each and every site. Distribution panels, I mentioned earlier, taking a single source voltage and applying it to multiple devices, be it at 12, 24, or 48 volts. We've got a variety of different products in here. Some are fuse protected, some are circuit breaker protected, some have the connections in the rear, some have the connections in the front. Some use GMT fuses, some use ATOs. Whatever your requirement is at site, we've likely got a distribution panel that'll work there for you. For some lower power or requirements where there might be 3-stage battery charging, we've got an IntelliCharge device which can do that as well, where the battery charging can utilize a temperature probe to keep it temperature compensated. We can define lithium-ion batteries. It has a front panel display. It can be rack mounted or just sat on the desk or in an enclosure or bolted to a tower or whatever it might be. On the inverter side, we've got a 300-watt version. We've got a 1,500-watt version. Some of those come with transfer switches. So if you're primarily running off AC power, it acts just like a bump in the wire and flows that AC all the way through it. But if the power fails, it automatically switches over to a battery, takes that DC voltage from it, converts it to AC, and keeps your AC systems up and running as well as your DC. So we've got a variety of different products in here. Now, in terms of what we've released back in 2022, the top one here is sort of our flagship device, and this is the new 1,500-watt power module. So it effectively takes any of our modular power systems, be it a 1U or a 2U version, and doubles that power. So you're now up to about 12,000 watts in some of our systems. So that should be more than enough to run the bulk of systems in the markets that we play. We also released a hybrid modular system last year. This is for scenarios and situations and applications where dual voltages might be required. As I mentioned earlier, you might have primarily 48 volt gear, but you've got one or two oddball pieces of equipment that run at 12 or 24 or so on. So instead of having a standalone converter that would step up or step down that voltage, we've got a device where it's built right into the chassis, and you can get a secondary voltage out of it as well. We released a DIN rail series of products last year as well. So if you're looking at smaller enclosures or equipment that's on a DIN rail or a lower power, smaller footprint, we've got the same intelligence and remote monitoring and control in a DIN rail package as well. We also released a distribution panel last year that has more outputs. So typically our distribution panels allow for 12 outputs, whether it's single bus or dual bus, meaning either one voltage or two. Last year, we released a distribution panel that can give you up to 20. So if you've got a site that's got 18 outputs, for example, you don't need to buy two distribution panels, one to get your 12 and another to get your 6. We've got it all right there in a single 1U device as well. And a polarity reversing converter, we released this as well. So again, in some of those sites where you might have primarily neg 48 volts running the bulk of your equipment, but you've got one or two standalone pieces that might be only positive 48. Instead of having to get an entirely different or new power system, we can just reverse the polarity through this converter and turn your negative 48 volts into positive or vice versa. So this is that power module that I was mentioning before that we've recently released and that Wincom is stocking and selling at a great rate for us. So it comes in either 24 or 48 volts. It does have an adjustable output range. So for example, at 48 volts, it can range anywhere from 48 to 62. That's user adjustable. 95% efficient, has a very wide temperature range, neg 30 down to positive 60 C. So for the Americans in the crowd, that's negative 22 up to, I think, about 140 Fahrenheit. Small, lightweight, and most importantly, hot swappable, right? So our systems are scalable and hot swappable, as I mentioned earlier. So if you've got a system and you need more power down the line, you can just buy another power module and slap it into one of the bays. You don't need to rip and replace and get yourself a new entire system, or in that unlikely event where one of these power modules fails, you can simply just replace it with a new one, pull it out, slap the new one in without having to cycle down or turn off your power or disrupt your communications or whatever it might be. So yeah, effectively getting us up playing in some high power applications now, all the way up to about 12,000 watts with a single device just like this. I'd mentioned earlier that hybrid power series. I've got a 1U version and a 2U. So this again was where you have a hot swappable, highly intelligent, redundant system. And it's also got a step down converter built right in. So this allows you to deal with two different voltages for your different equipment at your site, be it 48 and 24 or 24 and 12 or whatever it might be. We do have systems to accommodate different voltages required at site. So the previous slide was the 1U version, and we can effectively double up here to get twice as much power. With this one here, up to 7,500 watts of your primary voltage and 700 watts for secondary voltage with the built-in load distribution with your built-in battery connections, either 1 or 2, and all the metrics that are provided from that as well. State of charge, runtime remaining, being able to remotely test your batteries and so on, those points that I'd mentioned earlier. So we released this last year to meet those applications. The DIN series we released earlier this year. And this again is a highly intelligent 6-output remote monitored and controlled distribution device that comes along with its own either 24 or 48 volt power supply that can be snapped onto a DIN rail if that's how your system is wired or configured or powered or so on. If you're working with smaller enclosures, whatever it might be, if you don't want to take up rack space, we can do it in the smaller footprint here of a DIN rail system. So it's got 6 outputs, like I mentioned, up to 15 amps each, and so on, with external alarms, etc. So another option, again, being flexible in terms of I need this much power and I've got this much rack space and I'm using these types of batteries and I have X amount of loads or devices being connected or so on. ICT's got a system that's going to fit whatever your needs might be at that site. So to summarize here very quickly, ICT has established ourselves as the reputable power solutions in the LMR and the fixed wireless and the WAN and the LAN and the broadband space. Our products have these unique features, that ability to remotely monitor and control each connected device, data logging, alarm reporting, network watchdogs, load shedding, and so on, that offer these significant operational and financial benefits to customers. Our product design and manufacturing quality are critical, right? It's important that the power system not be the point of weakness when you spend tens or hundreds of thousands or perhaps even millions of dollars nowadays with CAF2 or BEAD or whatever it might be. You spent all this money and all this time getting frequencies, building towers, and spending money on all this gear. You don't want the power system to be simple and just you plug it into a wall and hope that everything helps or that everything works. You're looking for a high quality power system, and that's who we are and what we provide. And that's critical to these markets and applications that we serve, where communications is key and it is the source of interconnecting the globe. Our pre and post sales support is really second to none. It's recognized by customers across the industry, across the world. Our attentiveness, our response time, our technical knowledge to help anybody and everybody who's buying our gear, connecting it up to all their devices is really second to none. And we're really quite proud of that. We hear that regularly and constantly, whether we're at trade shows or folks just interacting with us. And finally, our continual and customer-driven design, development, manufacturing, and release of products is globally renowned. As I mentioned earlier, we don't offshore any of our gear. Our engineers design the products. It's supported internally. It's all designed, built, and manufactured right here, just north of the border, you Americans here in Canada. And the quality of North America really speaks for itself. So to that point, I'd like to thank, again, Elaine and the team over at Wincom. These guys, again, speaking second to none, they really are second to none in terms of their knowledge levels of ICT equipment and their support and their coverage of North America and the world, and their ability to have their engineers work with you and design systems and have the right equipment in stock to get it out to you quickly and effectively and at a cost-efficient number and price. I'd like to thank these guys for everything that they do and sponsoring this webinar. What we do wouldn't be possible without Wincom. So to that point, hit 31 minutes on the dot, missed it by 1. But let's see if there are any questions or comments out there from the attendees, anything that I can answer for you on our gear, whether it's the 1500 watt module or any other system that we've got. Does anybody have any questions or comments or concerns about what I presented or who we are and what we have?
So Brian, yes, we have a couple questions. I can read them off to you. One of the attendees asked if they can have a copy of the slides. So yes, we can provide that to you by email. And then there's only one other question. So if anyone has anything else to add, please send it in now. Brian, the question is, can you mix and match 700 watt modules and 1500 watt modules in the same shelf?
Yeah, great question. Thanks, Elaine, and thanks to whoever put that forward. Yeah, with the release of this new 1500 watt power module, effectively doubling the power of what we've been putting out for the last 5 years or so with 700 watts, the answer is no. You cannot mix and match a 1500 watt module in the same shelf or in the same chassis as a 700 watt. The firmware isn't designed to be able to accommodate that, but it is, as I mentioned, a very simple solution. There's no ripping and replacing required. You can just pull out your 700s, you could slap in your 1500 watts, effectively double your power without taking your system offline and keep on going. So no, you can't mix and match, but it's very simple and very quick and very easy and non-disruptive to install the 1500 watt modules where perhaps the 700 watts might have been.
Mm-hmm. All right. Actually, another question came in just now. Let's see. So the question is, what is the communication method used to contact your servers when the power/internet is out at the site?
Yeah, so our devices have a built-in web-based server that work off the TCP/IP protocol, and that is what we're using to interact between your phone or your tablet or your laptop or whatever it might be. That's the Ethernet link that's there. And as I mentioned before as well, we do have SNMP protocols when they are being built into other management software systems as well. But yeah, our gear is a web-based server right in the intelligent control module itself, which does come standard with our products. It's not a third party or a bolt-on SKU that you'd need to add intelligence. It is built right in. So yeah, we're using TCP/IP and do have the capability to go with SNMP for third parties. That's how we communicate.
All right. Any more questions? Brian, thanks again for presenting today. We really appreciate your time. And I think that's going to do it. I don't see any other questions coming in.
Great. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, Elaine. Thanks to Wincom for hosting and being such a great and supportive channel partner for us. My contact information is here on the screen. Obviously, the slide deck will go to Elaine for distribution to anybody who does want it. But if you want to get a hold of myself, I am available at those email addresses and phone numbers and websites as well. And I'd encourage anybody who's looking at any of these ICT gear to definitely reach out to Wincom, your regional inside or outside sales folks, and have that conversation about how ICT gear can help prop up or support and benefit your systems and sites. Thanks, Elaine.
Excellent, and thank you as well.
Great. Take care, everyone. Cheers.